Hello, welcome to Magic Cat Gaming. This is the Magic Cat, and today we're doing a Gruul exploration. So, Gruul in the ladder is generally kind of like all in on the little red-green elemental guy that is hard to block and gets bigger with landfall. I'm doing something a little different, as usual. So, what we got here is a bit of a ramp package. We've got 4 Gilded Goose, 4 Wolfwillow Havens, and 4 Cultivates. That's 12 ramp cards. It's maybe a little excessive, but I want to make sure, absolutely sure, that I am getting to the bigger stuff in my deck, because my bigger stuff is pretty powerful. So we've got, let's talk about the Terror of the Peaks. This is a 5/4 flyer for 5 mana. Pretty good on the vanilla test already. It says that spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks costs an additional 3 life to cast. That isn't they deal 3 damage, that is costs 3 life. They have to pay that before they cast the spell. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. And that's any target, so that's pretty handy. Now, it's a bit of a nombo with the Gilded Goose, because if you play a goose, it doesn't deal any damage. But you know what? If that goose lets us play this Terror on 4, I'm perfectly happy with that. Now, Elder Gargaroth is the other half of the 5 mana overpowered creature combo here. We've got Vigilance, Reach, Trample, just straight up on a 6/6 for 5 mana, which that already, just blows away the vanilla test. And then whenever Elder Gargaroth attacks or blocks, you get either a 3/3 beast, gain 3 life, or draw a card. All of those are useful, and it's on attack or block with the Vigilant creature, so theoretically he could be doing it every turn, depending on what your opponent's doing. Now, these 2 cards together work really well. We've got 2 Embercleaves in the deck, because Embercleave is a card that opponents need to respect, because if an Elder Gargaroth gets to turn sideways and you get to spend the 5 mana that you've got on the board putting Embercleave on top of it, that's 12 damage, 12 trampling damage. And that is really difficult for a lot of decks to handle. Alright, we got Moraug, Fury of the Akoum. This is a fun of. Basically, he kind of can come down and on the turn after you've played Terror of the Peaks or Elder Gargaroth and say, guess what? We get to do it again. So, like, Line of Plague might be on turn 5, you play the Gargaroth. Turn 6, you play the Moraug, you play a Terror of the Peaks or another Gargaroth. Turn 7, you play the Moraug onto the board with 6 mana. You play a land. You attack with everybody. You play a land. Everybody untaps and gets to attack again. There aren't a lot of decks that can handle that. And then you've got Phylath as kind of like one more finisher here, which works well with the landfall package. Now we've got 24 lands plus the Kazandu Mammoth to act as another fake land. So in terms of actually hitting your landfall, you should be able to do it without too much trouble, especially since Cultivate puts a land on the battlefield directly and also puts one into your hand. So every Cultivate you can think of as 2 landfall triggers, so that's pretty good. We put in Yidaro, also known as Godzilla Doom Inevitable, because he does fun stuff, but he also, more importantly, cycles. Now, a Hasty Trampler for 7 isn't the greatest, but it is pretty good if you've already got a Terror on the board. That's basically game. He also wears an Embercleave super well because of the haste, so you can, if you manage to cycle him onto the board, that's even better. The next follow-up we have is the Great Henge. Great Henge, if any of these 5 drops or higher stick around, you'll be able to cast a Great Henge for almost nothing the next turn, or in some cases, the bare minimum 2 mana. That is pretty good, and more importantly, it gives you the juice that you're going to need to keep digging. There's 2 Klothyses in the deck to basically act as long game. If you run out of any resources, if you have a Klothys on the field, you're at least going to dome them for 2 every turn and gain 2 every turn. And that's really what you're hoping for. But, there's always the possibility with the cards that you have a lot of red and green symbols on every one of these creatures. There's plus Wolfwillow Haven as a really sticky green source for that devotion. There is every opportunity to activate Klothys as a creature. So we'll see how that actually plays out in practice. This is a completely untested deck. We're going to run it with it like this. This deck probably needs more removal than just, hopefully casting stuff with Terror of the Peaks. But it is intended to be like a bit of a Stonewall aggro deck. So we'll see how it goes. It's I already have a Gruul deck. Let's go Gruul Exploration. Silly me. All right. The other Gruul deck is the ladder Gruul, so that's why we didn't use it. Want to do something new. So, still on the ladder. I haven't lost enough yet today, I suppose. We'll see how this goes. I do, again, like to let you... This gives you a good idea of how competitive the deck is. We're not winning games at silver. You're not going to be winning games at gold or mythic. This is definitely, you know, like I said, these are all tests. All right, so we've got a Wolfwillow Haven, which gets us to 4 and 5 with the total mana in hand. So we're going to go ahead and keep. It's a little risky, maybe. But we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. So we've got a Cragcrown for red. We've got a Fabled Passage to go get us another red source. Next turn, we're going to cast a forest and put a Wolfwillow Haven. We'll let them think we're mono green for as long as we can. And we'll probably be playing a Gargaroth a turn early, and I don't feel bad about that. We'll see how it goes with them. They're playing a Temple of Silence, which means they could be on something else. Cultivate, yeah, definitely going to go with the Wolfwillow and into that. So now we can cultivate next turn without actually playing a land from our hand, which will be kind of cool, and we can go get double red. All right, and a Kazandu Mammoth. So maybe that's the wrong way to go. Yeah, I think what we're going to do here is we are going to go ahead and play the Kazandu as a creature. And then we're going to play our red source. Now, we can do a lot here on our next turn with this Kazandu Mammoth if they don't deal with it. They're looking at an extra 6 damage, so... but they do have the glass casket. That's unfortunate, but it's also expected to some extent. And more importantly, we can follow it up with a Gargaroth then to keep a threat on the board. And now there's every chance that they would have more answers, but you know, hopefully we'll draw another threat or two. We're going to strip a lot of cards out of our deck with this, so not a huge deal. So here we go, Gargaroth. And they're a turn away from Elspeth Conquers Death, so they may have to shatter, or they may just scoop. Wow. You know, see, that's very unusual to me in the ladder, for someone to just scoop to a turn 4 Gargaroth. Like, especially against an Esper control deck. Like, I don't know how you don't have an answer to that early in the game. I was expecting maybe Moraug might go unanswered, but I guess he just didn't want to face off against what I was doing. All right, that was pretty quick. Let's get another one in. And let's see if we can get a little more of an interactive game going. It's very unusual for the ladder to just concede like that early in the game. Not really what I'm hoping for as far as these exploratory games. All right, so we've got a turn 1 Goose into a potential turn 2 Cultivate if we draw it. The Embercleave, there's not a lot going on with this hand, but we do have the Temple of Abandon. So what we're actually going to go ahead and do is we are going to keep it, and we're going to Temple first, even though that puts us off our immediate Goose plan. Basically, we want to dig into a threat specifically, because we have all the lands we're going to need. We've got the Cultivate. Oh, we just got a threat. But we're still going to Temple, because we want another one. And playing the Goose here is not going to be that useful. So we're going to go ahead and bottom the Cultivate. The truth of the matter is that is not going to be particularly a relevant Cultivate, per se, until... a long time, and more importantly, we're going to double Goose here. If we get an untapped land, we can Gargaroth next turn, which would make it a turn 3 Gargaroth, which would be amazing. Oh, but they're gonna eat one of our geese, and that's fine. So what we're gonna do instead, we did get the land that would have let us do it, but what we're gonna go ahead and do then is Cultivate. And get another red and another green source. Put the red on the board. All right, and no attacks. We're just going to sit back with our Goose. Now, next turn, we have the World Sculptor, theoretically, but we're going to wait till we can get the Fabled Passage benefit for it. And we're going to play the Gargaroth next turn instead. All right, so they are so nice to us, letting us... we're going to go ahead and Gargaroth. It was nice of them to tap out on all that blue. And we're going to pass the turn. Now, Apparition cannot hit Gargaroth, so that is perfectly fine. Now they can bounce the Skyclave. Yeah, no, we're going to block. Doi. And we're going to go ahead and make a 3/3 beast creature. We want to go wide. We've got cards in hand. Right, and so now that they've used their Shatter the Sky, we're going to go ahead and... Well, we're still off on Phylath. We need another land. We're going to Temple. Look for more threats. We don't care about that. And since we didn't find anything we cared about, we're going to go ahead and Cultivate. And then we're going to Wolfwillow Haven to keep stacking up the mana. We have more mana than we would ever possibly need. Maybe this deck needs a Fireball or something along those lines. Missed the land drop. That's interesting. Had the Essence Scatter. That's unfortunate. So we're just going to Goose. Now they're digging for lands, so if that's not a land on top... Oh, they got a land. They have cast their Yorion. That's not great. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and activate the Wolfwillow Haven. And we're going to pass a turn. We can activate and eat food to make it so that Yorion attacking us is only doing 1 damage a turn. And honestly, we're perfectly happy with that. And we can attack with the Embercleave if they don't leave up a blocker on the next turn. That's kind of our line of play here. They showed us an Essence Scatter. They may have the negate for the Embercleave. There's not much we can do about that if that is the case. They didn't attack. We are still going to create a food at least. There's no reason not to. And we'll go ahead and eat food. Because we don't really need the food per se. We definitely don't need it for ramping, so it's just life gain at this point. You know, a way to spend mana and gain incremental advantage. Alright. We're gonna try and get in there with everybody. This is a bit of a bluff. Not a lot of a bluff. They didn't block. Let's try to resolve the Embercleave. Alright, let's go for the damage. Boom. Okay, so we got in for 6. By itself, not particularly impressive, but better than not getting in for any damage this game. 6 mana. What you doing with 6 mana? It's not enough to Emeria Skyfall or whatever that thing is called, so you're not doing that. That would be pretty bad for us if you were able to do it, so I would expect that to be next turn, now that you've got your 7th mana. And an ECD. Well, that's only got 1 target. Bye-bye Embercleave. We're going to eat food. Again, the only purpose for this food at this point is just the life gain, so it doesn't really matter. And now with the Elspeth Conqueror's Death on the field, we do not actually want the Yorion to die unless it's just going to be like after that's finished resolving. Man, we are just drawing all the lands. All of them. It might be worth cutting a few. Now, this control deck is taken over. We're going to go ahead and concede. And we're going to play one more game. Now, all those, ramp cards, they'd still be good if we had been able to keep a landfall creature on the board, or, if they were actually making it so we weren't top decking lands the whole time. But unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. So what this deck might need is to adjust some of the cards a little bit. It might be worth taking the Mammoths out and replacing them with the Landfall enchantment that lets you play the top card of your library. We might need some Planeswalkers to give some more ways to get some value. We got a turn 2 Cultivate here, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it, because that lets us turn 4, because you still got to get the thing back, Terror of the Peaks here. So that's not too terrible. And we got the Klothys in the meantime. So, not so bad, not so bad. We'll see how this goes. Oh, they're on green. So I feel a little bit less like we're just going to get blown out. We play this, and we're going to go ahead and Cultivate. Grab a green, grab a red, and put the green down. Now, next turn is going to be an interesting choice. Okay, so there's the white. They're definitely a counter-inspired deck. They're going to play something... There we go. Yeah, that's not really a problem for us in a sense. Okay, we've got a creature we could play that is a good blocker. Yeah, we'll go ahead and play that for sure. And we'll go ahead and play the Mammoth. Now, Klothys would be up to 5, so that actually means that once we've played a Terror or the Gargaroth, and we're probably going to try the Terror first, because playing Gargaroth behind Terror is just very nice, especially since they will be very unlikely to be able to grow fast enough to stop that 6 damage from just being removal. Alright, so we're going to play... we're going to go for green. It doesn't really matter. Now, I could beat here, but I would rather get my Terror down and keep up a blocker. Because there is the possibility of them going nuts and protecting something. Swarm Shambler is going to go to like a 5/4, something like that. That's fine. If they don't deal with the Terror, Elder Gargaroth comes down behind and gets to kill either probably the Conclave Mentor, honestly, or maybe the Scourge. It really doesn't matter so much because the one behind it is going to have to do some work too. Conclave Mentor or the Swarm Shambler, basically he wants to grow that Scourge really quickly. If he can't get it, obviously if he leaves it at a 6, we probably leave it there, but there could be other stuff that happens. Multiple Gargaroths make the Scourge attack very questionable. Okay, we're going to go with the Gargaroth. Feeling like he's got to get rid of it. I understand that. That's absolutely correct. We're going to take the opportunity to attack with a 5/5 then, since he doesn't have any good blocks. Put him to 12. Now, the Scourge doesn't have Trample naturally, and the Gargaroth gets to draw cards / gain incremental value. So we're good with that. The reality is that, oh, this could get bad very quickly with the indestructible, or not indestructible, but vigilant and extra counters. We really needed to kill that Conclave Mentor, but it looks like we're not going to get that opportunity here. Alright, we're going to chump the Scourge. And do we want... And we're going to go ahead and leave it at that. We'll take the 7. Now that's unfortunate because it does mean that our Klothys, if it comes down, is not going to be active yet. But it's not the end of the world. Okay. We play the Gargaroth. And now we've got some really good blockers here. And we're going to go ahead and play that. And we'll leave it so that we can keep our stuff on defense. Now, all he needs is another land and life gets really bad for us. But the reality is that that was going to be true anyways. Not having the 5-4 around is definitely causing us problems. Oof, that's pretty bad too. Okay, how do we block this? Now, he's mostly tapped out. We could absolutely stack block, because that ends up being 15, and then could grow even more if he does it wrong. And we get to get a couple of creatures on the board or draw cards. Probably drawing cards in this case. I feel that Scourge just has to die, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure the Scourge dies. Alright, let's draw some cards. Another Mammoth. And he left me with a Gargaroth, which I think is questionable, since I could theoretically attack into this board and, you know, gain value. Because I would absolutely kill that Basri's Lieutenant, and intend to do so. And draw another card. Great Henge. I feel good about that. And he didn't block, so it's going to be a cheap Henge. So let's play the Henge. Let's play the Mammoth. Let's play a Mammoth. Alright, that was not a terrible turn. And now I can gain some life or draw another card. Even if he plays the Felidar, like, I'm not completely out of it. It would be rough, but I've got the Kazandus to chump, and I've got the Gargaroth to gain me an incremental advantage. At this point, the 3-3 is probably the way I would go. I've definitely got enough devotion for Klothys to keep me in this thing, as far as being a creature that is indestructible and a permanent chumper. Okay. So no land, which is really good for me because it means that he's got less good with tax. The extra Scourge is rough. If he attacks with the Shambler, I don't think he's got any way to pump it, so we're going to double block with the 2 Mammoths. And I will trade a Mammoth for the Swarm Shambler, which is fine by me. Okay, we got the Embercleave. Things are about to get bad for this guy. Here we go. We're gonna go wide. We're getting a beast this time. Blocking with the Mentor and a Shambler. and a Stray. It's not really going to matter here because this is going to get the job done. And the double strike. Boom. Alright, he's not dead yet, but we got a Klothys. And that's good enough for me. So now we've got a 7/7 double striker, which also does great things when we block. That's pretty good, but it's not good enough. Like, the Wildwood Scourge gets huge. Klothys just stands in front of it like a boss. Tokens trade, and 4/4 eats a 3/3, and I take 6 damage. We'll gain 3 life just in case. We'll eat a creature out of his yard. I think we hate the Wildwood guy more. He was a jerk. We don't need another henge. We're going to go to combat, and we're going to attack with the Gargaroth. Now, he has the block with the Scourge. We're going to continue to... We're going to draw a card. Oof, bad draw. All right. He has the block with the Scourge. We're going to get to kill that, and he still needs to block out. Like, just, that's not good enough. So, first strike damage, and then trample over for 3 more. He just kind of gave up. Oh well. Alright, so there was Gruul actually working as intended. That's the reason why our Embercleaves were in the deck. That's why we had the Great Henge. Those 2 cards came together and gave us the edge that we needed to get out ahead of that counters deck. That is actually in like a really good example of the deck functioning like it's supposed to. I thought we were going to lose that one, but we ended up winning it by playing it out and by getting a little lucky. So thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed that deck. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Have a nice day.